Hello, welcome to PEEP Live, episode 2, the 21st of October, 2017. It's an absolute pleasure to be here again. Hope you're enjoying the night, and we hope to improve it with some more information and news on combat sports. And this is our second, as I said, it's our second live stream. PEEP Magazine is, we cover every type of combat sport you could mention, whether it be boxing, kickboxing, K1, mixed martial arts. You can subscribe to us. Obviously, if you're watching on YouTube, you can subscribe to us you can follow us on Twitter, on Facebook, on Instagram, combat news as it happens. We apologize for the late start. We were actually scheduled to start at 7:30. We had a few technical hitches, which didn't involve any dogs or spilt water. It was a technical hitch. We had to restart again. So thank you for bearing with us and staying tuned in. And we hope to improve your night, make it even more interesting than it already hopefully is. So tonight's show run, we have current combat news rundown. We'll be talking a little bit about some boxing events that are happening, some boxing events that have happened, and a particular fighter that we've had on the channel a few times before. We're also going to be looking at our competition winner, if any. We had a competition that we ran on the last episode, which hopefully some of you had entered. So if anybody's managed to win that and answer the question correctly, we'll be naming our winner and sending the prizes out to you tonight. We also have a second competition we're going to be running. There'll be a prize available for that too. So we'll be announcing the competition, and hopefully we'll get some people involved with that. We also have a special guest tonight, a very special guest that we're very grateful to have with us tonight, who will be talking a little bit about the combat sports, specifically K1 and kickboxing. So we'll keep him a secret until he comes on. But you can see there's an empty seat to my right here that we'll be filling shortly. That there may be actually a clue in the studio that might give you an idea as to who it is we're going to have on. And the last part of the show will be what we are currently calling PEEP Mix. If anybody has any better suggestions, this one just came to me, PEEP Mix, then please send it through and we'll certainly consider it. But PEEP Mix is basically, it could be absolutely anything. It could be about books. It could be about film. It could be connected to training gear. It could be urban streetwear. It could be alternative sports than combat sports. So we'll be having PEEP Mix on every episode, every stream that we run. And there'll be a variety of topics on that, which I'm sure will interest and engage you. So without further ado, let's get on to our first current news rundown. So we're going to step into the world of professional boxing. I have my trusty iPad in front of me here, which I'm going to refer to. So we're very happy to announce that Lewis the Sandman Ritson, who we've had on the show a number of times, we've covered his profile with Blood Brothers. Blood Boys. Out of the 10 times I've said that, I've got it right once. So there you go, Blood Boys, which was a very interesting and informative documentary on Lewis the Sandman Ritson about his training, his aspirations, how he got involved in the sport, and also some tremendous sparring footage that we had of Lewis. I also conducted an interview at the Baltic Centre of Contemporary Art in Newcastle, which was fantastic. We do recommend that you go and visit that. And again, shout out to the Baltic Centre and staff and management for allowing us to come in there and film. So PEEP Magazine, we went straight into there, and we conducted a tremendous interview with Lewis previous to his British title fight. Asked him again, just how he was feeling up to the fight, how he felt about his opponent, about his training. We had his dad on answering some questions about, how he got involved in the sport. And just some ideas that we had about, about self-improvement, self-belief. And it was a really interesting interview. So if you haven't watched that, then we recommend that you scroll onto, I think it's just titled Lewis Ritson Interview Baltic. So if you want to have a little look at that would be interesting. So we're very happy to announce that Lewis actually became victorious. He's now the British lightweight champion, professional boxing champion. He won the Lonsdale belt, and that was in Manchester Arena on October the 7th. PEEP, our very own Cliff Sainsbury, went down to cover the event. It was broadcast on Sky Sports. a tremendous fight. I believe, I wasn't there myself, but I believe Lewis had just dominated his opponent. He knocked him down 3 times in the fight. I think 4 times actually in the fight. 4 times in the fight, and he managed to stop him. I think the referee stopped the fight in the 9th round. 7th round. We like our numbers here at PEEP. So Lewis put on a tremendous performance there. He didn't give his opponent a chance to get started. Cutting his opponent off, dominating him, tremendous defense, showing some tremendous power and strength there. You could see how hard that Lewis had worked for it, how dedicated and how focused he was to win that. He'd made weight tremendously well. He was on weight. He did that very well. We talked a little bit about his nutrition leading up to the fight. His water intake, etc. So he didn't have to water load or cut weight dramatically. He felt he would be strong on the night. I spoke to his dad about that. He felt the same, and he trained incredibly hard for the fight. He didn't miss a session. He doubled up his sessions, didn't overtrain as well, got his sparring just right, and the proof was really in the pudding. So Lewis Ritson is officially the British lightweight boxing champion. So a little round of applause there for Lewis if he's watching. So Lewis has fought for the Lonsdale belt. If I'm not mistaken, you have to defend the belt 3 times to retain it. And it will be interesting because we're going to have Lewis on again in the very near future. Perhaps I envisioned a kind of a moonlight interview at the Baltic. I think that'd be lovely to maybe sit out and have a drink or a meal. And we should. That is the plan. We're going to invite Lewis and his dad, myself and Cliff. We're going to go up to the Baltic on a night, so we can have the beautiful city of Newcastle lit up in the background. We're going to talk to him about his victory, about his upcoming fights, upcoming plans, and how he felt on the night, and very, for me, and I'm sure for a lot of viewers out there and our special guest, I'd be interested to hear his opinion on this one as well. If he intends to defend and retain the belt, which for me personally, I love the idea of winning the British title, the Lonsdale belt, defending it, retaining it, moving on to Commonwealth, moving on to European, and then moving on to contest for one of the arguably the main belts, the WBA, WBC, IBF, WBO. You maybe put some other ones in there as well. So we'll see what Lewis's future plans are, and I really look forward to that interview. And I'm sure people will really enjoy the night, So that'll be good. And drinks on Cliff, I think, on that night. That'll be great. So, Lewis, if you're watching, we look forward to seeing you soon. Oh, actually, I should also mention that Lewis, after that fight, has signed with Eddie Hearn, who's arguably one of the main promoters in the world, actually, the world-renowned boxing promoter. So he's signed with Eddie Hearn. Eddie Hearn, we could say that one of his biggest fighters at the moment is Anthony Joshua, who's now a world champion and really is one of the premier professional boxers out there at the moment. So it's nice to have Lewis signed up with Eddie Hearn, and who knows, perhaps in the near future we'll have him on an undercard as well with Anthony Joshua. That would be great to see. So we'll see how we go from there. Right, next bit of news then. Box Nation will be visiting Newcastle Metro Arena. I was pleased to hear this on the radio. Actually, I was just driving in my car at the beginning of this week to hear it announced that we're having professional boxing back in Newcastle. I've been to a few shows in Newcastle myself. I went to a Contender show, and I also went way back in the day when Joe Kawasaki and Ricky Hatton fought on the same bill, which was a tremendous event. And also Robin Reed. I remember Robin Reed fighting on one of the Newcastle shows, going back to Robin Reed, going old school there. And also one of the main cruiserweights, a world champion cruiserweight who fought on the same stable as Joe Kawasaki. I remember watching him in Newcastle. There's always a sellout. I think it's a 10,000 person capacity or around about that, and it's always sold out when you have boxing in Newcastle. We really do support the sport of boxing, of professional boxing, and anytime a promoter puts on a big show like that, it's always fully packed out, it's always fully supported. So it's the 11th of November. Just quickly looking at my notes here, headlining that show will be Liam Smith versus Liam Williams, which will be a tremendous battle. That'd be interesting to see Liam Smith there, back in the ring. Another domestic super lightweight, we're going to have Northeast's own Glenn Foote versus Josh Leather. Just a little shout out here to Glenn. Would you like to come on to the show? We'll perhaps get you on the live stream episode 3. It'd be nice to hear what your thoughts are leading up to that show.
Let's get Glenn Foote in.
Let's see if we can get Glenn Foot on the show. So Glenn, if you are watching, then please give us a call, give us a message, and we'd be honoured to have you on and chat with us a little bit about your preparations for that. So that should be interesting. As I said, though, I mean, if you haven't already bought your ticket, then you want to get onto the Ticketmaster right now and get them reserved, because they do go very quick. It's a tremendous atmosphere. As I said, I've been to a number of local shows. I'd also actually been to a UFC show at the Metro Arena back in the day. I can't remember exactly who was on that bill because it was a while back. But you're queuing around the block, and it's always lovely, as I say, to have professional combat sport on such a big platform in the Northeast, and it'll be a pleasure to have it back again. So, just lastly, a little bit more on the boxing front here. Job's Gym, Matt Jobs, will be putting on his first show as a promoter, and PEEP magazine will be covering that show. We'll be there to film, to do some interviews, and to obviously to be on site taking photographs and helping Matt to promote the show. The date is the 24th of November, and that will be at the Scotswood Social Club. So if you would like tickets for that, I'm sure if you get in touch with Matt directly, Matt Jobs at Jobs' Gym directly for tickets, or I'm sure you can contact us here at PEEP Magazine and we can put you in touch. Again, I imagine the tickets will go very quickly for that. There's some great fighters on. I don't have the card in front of me right now, but I will have the card presented to me soon, I am sure, and we can run through some of the fighters there. But if you would like to go and see a tremendously run show, professionally run show, that's local to you, that's affordable, and will promise to be a great event. That's the Matt Jobs' Gym's first boxing combat show, which is the 24th of November at Scotswood Social Club. Okay, fantastic. Right then, a little bit of news for you there. So I hope you've enjoyed that. If you have any questions about what we've just covered, any queries, anything you want to add, any corrections you want to make, feel free to message us as we continue this live stream. So let's now move on to the competition. So the competition winner. Do we have a competition winner? I don't think we do, because nobody's actually guessed the question correctly. So what we're going to do now is we're going to reinstate the original question competition, and I'll give you what the prize. I'll also let you know what the prize is for that. And we're going to have a new competition that we're going to run concurrently with that. So you can enter both if you like. Give the right answer, you'll be doubling up your prizes. So the original question was this: can anyone spot the visual reference to an iconic photographic image from 1931? And I think the camera is very elegantly scanning the entire studio to give you a little bit of obviously visual prompt there, which you're going to need, otherwise you're not really going to spot it. So once again, the competition and your prize will be, I'm pushing Cliff to have a branded PEEP Magazine iMac, but at the minute, that's not the prize. The prize is a PEEP Magazine t-shirt and an APN, an Applied Performance Nutrition protein supplement. There'll be 2 prizes. Recommended retail value of those, approximately £40. So that's £40 of value you'll be getting if you can answer this question. Can anyone spot the visual reference to an iconic photographic image circa 1931? And it's not me. I was born much later than that, so just in case you're wondering. Although our next guest, I'm not too sure. I think it was a little bit later than that as well, but we'll let him confirm that. I'm going to give you a clue.
Let's give them a clue.
I'm going to give you a clue. The clue is it involves...
It's in this room.
I'm going to give you a better clue. Can I give a better clue?
Yeah.
I'm going to give you a better clue. It involves a playing card. It involves a playing card. So I'm going to throw that question at you one more time. I'm going to give you the second question, then we're going to bring on our special guest. Can anyone spot the visual reference to an iconic photographic image circa 1931? And it involves a playing card, and you'll win a PEEP Magazine t-shirt and an APN protein supplement, which I'm sure for anybody out there who trains, use protein powders, Applied Performance Nutrition, fantastic brand, fantastic quality. We endorse and recommend their product. So this is your second question, and the winner of this competition, and you can win both, will win an official Team Alpha XXL Pretty Boy Assassin branded t-shirt. They are going like hotcakes. We can hardly keep them on the shelves, and you have a chance to win one. Retail value, priceless. The question is, and if our guest can answer this, he could well be the winner of the t-shirt. Okay, or should they say the training top? The question is, and it's in 3 parts, and you have to answer all 3 correctly. Which Klitschko beat which British heavyweight to win the WBO world title, obviously heavyweight title, and what year was it? Once again, the question is, which Klitschko beat which British heavyweight to win the WBO world title, and what was the year? And you have to get all 3 parts correct, and that will win you a XXL French navy blue Pretty Boy Assassin Team Alpha branded t-shirt. I should also mention that my background is in martial arts, in kickboxing, strength and conditioning, nutrition, supplementation, mentoring, emotional development, sports psychology. My brand and my ethos is Team Alpha. Team Alpha is as I say, it's a training brand. It's a ethos. It's a way of life. It involves whether it's the martial arts, the kickboxing, the boxing, some of the jiu-jitsu, strength and conditioning, resistance training, sports psychology. They're all incorporated within it. The nutrition. You can follow me. You can follow Team Alpha on Instagram on Team Alpha 1424. Please do. And any questions that you have, please message me, comment. I would love to hear them. If you want to join us, you're very welcome to. We have group classes, we have one-to-one coaching. So if you want to get in contact, any interest in that, please feel free. Once again, I should mention for PEEP Magazine, for your up-to-date combat news, you can follow us on Twitter, you can follow us on Instagram, you can follow us on Facebook, and very clearly you can subscribe to us on YouTube. Click the little bell button there, get your subscriptions, get your notifications rather, and all the up-to-date news will be with you as it happens. So I think I had a question from the audience there. Do we have a question?
Yeah.
Fantastic.
We're having a couple of difficulties with comments, so if anyone's trying to comment at the moment, do it either via Twitter or Instagram.
No problem.
Or Facebook.
No problem. We've got a few more technical hitches in the studio tonight. It just seems to be, it's all happening.
It's the wind. It's the wind.
It's the wind. It's the weather. We're going to blame the weather. So unfortunately, we're having trouble with receiving Hurricane Brian. So thank you, Brian. We've managed to start half an hour late, and we are not able to receive comments via YouTube. So if you would like to comment or message us, please do so via Instagram or via Twitter. We will receive them immediately. And then we can respond to them as you do. So, without further ado, I'm just going to introduce our special guest, and I'm going to bring him on. And again, if you do have any questions for him, you're very welcome to message us via Instagram or Twitter. I'm actually going to do that with our special guest. So, our special guest is president of DUEL Fight Sports. One of the which DUEL aims to become one of the world's premier fight brands and promotions. It's certainly headed that way. With some tremendous fighters, tremendous production value, tremendous matches. That's DUEL. He's also the director for K1 with the World Kickboxing Association. In my opinion, one of the perhaps 2 most reputable kickboxing governing bodies in the world. I've actually fought with the WK a number of times and had a number of their titles for the northeast of England. He has a tremendous background in combat sports, a lot of knowledge on the subject, clearly, which we're going to be asking him about. And we're very lucky to have him in as a special guest. So if we'd like to bring in Mr. David Wield. Excellent, yes. There's a lot of clapping at home. Nice to see you, David. Thank you for
Hi,
coming
James.
in.
Nice
Good
to see you again.
Yeah, good to see you, my man. I'm just going to turn my chair slightly, viewers, so I can engage with David. So first of all, thank you for coming on. I think I said before that we'd set up one of the chairs was a joke chair that would actually fall on command and collapse on command, but hopefully you've picked the right one, so you should be fine. So
I was extra careful when I came on.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, but there's hopefully nothing that's going to fall from above. So first of all, how are you doing?
Yeah, very well. I'd just like to say thank you anyway for inviting me on here.
Oh, it's our pleasure.
I think it's great what you're doing. It's really getting the regionals the regions combat sports out there, you know.
Yeah.
And it's extra entertainment as well for people that like to stay in, you know.
Definitely.
I tuned in last week and I thought it was last month.
Yeah.
And I thought it was really good.
Fantastic. Thank you for that. Like I said, it's our pleasure to have you on. As I mentioned before, you're certainly one of the premier promotions. Duel itself, it's got tremendous branding. As I say, the shows I've been to, they have tremendous matchups, tremendous production values, which I think is really important. And as I said before, also you're director of K1 for the World Kickboxing Association, and that's no small thing. That's a tremendous thing. So before I ask you a little bit about your history, just to mention that I came to the last show of yours that I came to was at the Walker Leisure Dome. Was that correct?
The Walker Activity Dome.
Dome. I apologise. Yeah, and I think was that November last year.
No, it was February. February the 4th.
February. There you go. There you go. That's my. Thank God we brought David in, because he's keeping me right on the dates. I mean, I went to that show. One of my good friends and training partner, Steve Ibbotson, fought on that. I came into the dome, and straight away, as soon as I walked into obviously the main hall where the event was happening, I was kind of overwhelmed a little bit with with the way that everything was set out. You know, big screens on there showing the fighters, the way the ring was set up, all the lighting. These are really important fundamental things that we take for granted. But the way it was all brought together, it was so professionally done. You know, it could have been shown live on Sky Sports without a doubt.
Yeah, well, as you know, Duel started off in my own little venue, the NE6, and we just thought it was about time. Look, we need to step up a little bit. We need to try and compete.
And graciously invited me to come in, which I'm very, very grateful for. And I had my heart in my mouth, to be honest, but it was a tremendous victory for Steve. I think it was just a counter left hook. And he had Mickey Terrell in his corner and Baz Jones, who's actually also fighting tonight. So
that's right,
yeah. So it was good to have that the Manor Boys and Steve Ibbotson kickboxing in there, showing their ways, so to speak.
Yeah, well, I mean, Steve was up against a tough lad who's had lots of fights, lots of MMA, lots of boxing, quite a few K1. And, Steve's a very good prospect.
Yeah.
He can go all the way. If we can get him in the fights, if we can get some sort of structure, then, I would love to. To me, I think he's got the talent to go all the way to the top.
Absolutely.
But I'd say with that corner team, I don't think he could lose.
Yeah, very much. I mean, Mickey Terrell, who's the world unlicensed boxing champ. Bare knuckle. Sorry, I do apologise. I was at the bare knuckle. I hadn't mentioned that because it's actually written in my notes, because we're going to talk a little bit about bare knuckle boxing and on the PEEP mix. Actually, now I wanted to mention Mickey. So he's the world bare knuckle boxing champion heavyweight.
He is, yeah, for the UB Bad promotion.
The UB Bad, yeah. And obviously, Mickey Terrell trains with him, and Baz Jones, who's also my boxing coach as well. To have him in your corner and Mickey, it's on a striking base, it's a win-win, isn't it?
Well, that's it. Yeah, I'd say he couldn't lose with that team.
Absolutely. Right, that's brilliant. Now we're going to talk a little bit about the history of Duel, actually, and a little bit about yourself. Now, yep. No problem. Fantastic. A few technical problems tonight, guys. It's not a problem. It's going to keep running through. We're professionals. That's just what we do. No problem. So we're talking to David Wheel tonight, who's the director for K1 with the World Kickboxing Association in the Northeast, and also the president of Duel Promotions. So we're going to talk a little bit now about Duel and how Duel started and how David's interest in the combat sport started. I personally remember Duel, we're discussing a little bit before the show went live, and I'm going to call this Duel 0.0. So it was almost like this Duel before Duel came about. And I'd fought on one of those shows at the Newcastle University. It was a packed card. I remember it being a packed card. Top of the bill, I think, was Jamie Bates versus Marlon Hunt, that's right. And I fought on the undercard against a very tough customer called Sean Ford, who was a very hard puncher and a lovely guy. I hope you're watching tonight, Sean. If you're not, you should be. Subscribe. I just remember it being, a great show. Great venue as well. A super packed card. I'm sure the show had started at something like 1 o'clock in the afternoon, and it didn't finish until 2 o'clock. And the longest show in history. Look in the world record books; it's in there.
I think that was my inexperience, to tell you the truth. It was the first time we stepped out of a social club, and to be honest, we were panicking. The venue was expensive. It was a lot more expensive than what I've previously paid. We had to pack the fights for the tickets.
Yeah, of course.
Luckily, we got just under 1,300 people in, you know. And I mean, it was a really, really good event, but just long. And I think half the people fell asleep come the main event, including myself almost.
It was, but I still have memories of it being a great show. You know, it was a great show to be involved in. It was certainly some great fights on the show as well, and some good fighters on there. I think Jimmy Bates was victorious over Marlon Hunt, I believe, and he won the WK.
It was the WKF version of the world title.
Of a world title.
Full contact. I think it was a unanimous decision.
Unanimous decision, yeah. So that was tremendous, which was interesting. I managed to overcome the very tough and enigmatic Sean Ford in the second round. I think it was.
Tough Welshman.
Yeah, very tough.
Was it the second round? Was it?
Yeah. I think I stopped him second. Yeah, it was second. But it was he was very, very, very tremendously tough fighter, Sean Ford.
Right hook or overhand right or something.
I think it was just closing the eyes and hoping for the best, David. You know how I roll.
Yeah. It was a good fight.
It was good. It was a great night as well. It was a great night, and a very interesting stacked card. But from there, we mentioned before how you'd then kind of rebranded. Well, not really rebranded, because at that point you weren't actually called Duel, but you then branded as Shogun Challenge. Is that correct?
Yeah, Shogun Challenge. That was when I said, right, we're going to drop everything. We're just going to go to K1 rules, because that's what I could see was happening, down south and stuff. And obviously, as a big fan of K1 itself, the Japanese promotion, I wanted to try and get into it, you know.
Yeah, of course.
So we rebranded to Shogun. We done that at Liquid nightclub. It was all right.
Got all Liquid.
Liquid, yeah. I mean, it was all right. Unfortunately, we had the two main fighters got injured within a week.
Wow.
Within a week of the show. Craig Jones had to pull out, and Jamie Bates as well. And I was like, I'm not the type of person to cancel. So I just went ahead with it, and it was like, you know, and then from then I just thought, right, take a bit of time out, and then I'll come back with something else. Yeah,
I mean that's without going too deep into it, but that's one of the great difficulties as a boxing promoter, that fighters can become, obviously fighters can get injured, but fighters can pull out, things can change, and it's trying to juggle many balls in the air.
That's it. Yeah, I mean, if any of your main fighters pull out, it changes the whole dynamic of the event. I mean, it could be someone that you've invested a lot of time in trying to market the person, get them in front of people, and also besides that, you're also like, look, you're trying to attract the attention of other promoters in Europe or wherever.
Of course, yeah.
You know what I mean? Look, I've got this fighter coming up. Have a look at him. He's fighting next month, and then he pulls out, and it's like the knock-on effect is just it's a bit of a pain, but that's the gamble, isn't it?
This is it. So I'm interested. So after you took some time out, then I assume then that your first promotion after that was essentially Duel or Duel 1.
Just Duel, yeah.
So the name Duel, love the name Duel. I do remember seeing, because we were in discussion around about this time, to potentially doing something together, and I remember seeing just the branding of the Duel, and I thought, wow, that looks really eye-catching, and I like the name Duel, that it's not, and it's something fresh, but it's still combat. Kind of, when you hear Duel, you still think of combat, but it's kind of fresh and it's elegant in a sense as well. I love that.
And obviously, it's the connection with Duel as a fight.
Yeah, yeah, of course.
I mean,
exactly.
The story behind that is basically after the Shogun flopped. I say it flopped. It didn't really flop as such.
Didn't do as well as you wanted it to do.
It didn't meet my own sort of expectations.
Yeah.
Me and Richard Ince from ICO, the MMA promotion.
Yeah.
We said, look, let's do it. Let's organise something. So it was the other partner of Iko, James Hansen, who, you know, we were deciding on the names, and he sent over a big list of names, and just instantly, Duel stood out, you know. And I was like, well, Duel, how about we call it Duel Fight Sports? I didn't want to call it Fighting Championships or Fight Series or Championship. Just wanted it unique, you know.
Barbed wire boxing
that was
battles or something like that.
And luckily James done the branding as well. And then I don't really know what happened. We were having trouble matchmaking, and then the Iko team pulled away. So I was left with it myself. And again, I'm not the type of person to cancel, so sorry, let's go ahead with it, you know. And it was good, It was just...
And how did it go? How did the first show come off?
Yeah, I mean, production-wise, it was poor. Fight-wise, I thought it was good. We had Jamie Bates again, headlining against Carl Langley. Who I think was the southeast or southwest champion at the time. And Jimmy stopped them in that, I think it was the last round.
Well done.
So,
excellent.
That's good.
It's good. So after that show, then, I mean, what was your at that point? I mean, how long ago were we talking? So are we talking like 2012, 2013?
2014 was
14.
The first one.
So it's 2014. So we're talking perhaps 3 years, around about 3 years ago. At that point, what did you have, if any, a future vision for where you wanted to take Duel? Did you have an idea in regards to where you wanted to put the events on? What styles of fighting you wanted to have on that? Any links that you foresaw? Any fighters you particularly want to have onto the show? And say back in 2014, were you even thinking as far as 2017, 2020? Or
it's funny you should say that, because my vision now for Duel is completely different to what it was then. I tell you what I had in my mind, because I owned the venue and I was in. I thought, right, I want to make this the biggest small show in town. And what I mean by, you know, it might be 300, 400, 500 people in, but I want it to be known for having good, solid fights. A bit like some sort of, I don't know, like a romantic sort of Rocky sort of, slugging it out in an old, crappy venue, you know. But the fighters are really good. And that's what I wanted. I mean, I think I sort of made that happen to an extent. And then now, my vision is now, look, I want to take it bigger. And I've got my eyes on the dome, and I think quite well. I know for sure some things are coming up. That's really interesting. Really good for local fighters, especially.
Fantastic. It's interesting you say that. I think with any area that you're looking to achieve success in, whether it's fight promotion, whether it's, you know, as a musician, whether it's you know, as a YouTube blogger, whether it's as an athlete, your vision will change. It will change. It will kind of reform. It will reformulate. It will you know, it will progress as you progress, because you're learning things. You know, for me personally, I don't know if you agree with this, but there's no such thing as a mistake. It's maybe a cliche, but it truly is a learning experience and a learning lesson. So you know, it's very easy to, you know, as children in school, we're ticked or we're crossed, and if it's a cross, it's red. If it's a tick, it's green. So there's good and bad, and that's kind of the, you know, that's what we're kind of taught and led to believe. But it's not true, because a cross can become a tick so easily further down the road. So it's natural that your vision should change.
It's just like an evolutionary thing, isn't it?
Evolution.
You know, as you.
That was the word I was looking for.
I mean, you know, I would be at my own shows. I would watch the fights. I'd be very happy. I'd watch them back on YouTube, and then I found myself just picking faults instead of concentrating on fights, picking faults. Like, I should have done that. I should have done this. That doesn't look right. That looks awful. Do you know what I mean? And then trying to change it. But so now I've got a clear vision there in my head what I want to do. You know, the aesthetics, what I want it to look like. And that's interesting. It's as you say, it's very progressive. It's a very progressive art form, so to speak. So I just very briefly, because I would like to come back onto fight promotion, because my next question was going to be, actually I'll save that one. Just very briefly, what was your background in combat sports? How did you become interested in it? Do you have any training in it? When did it first attract your attention? I've pretty much always been involved with martial arts to some degree. I mean, as far back as I can remember, I had an uncle that lives in London now. he used to do Kyokushinkai.
Yeah.
He's
full
actually,
contact karate.
Yeah, well, he's Lebanese, and he used to
Right.
mind all these foreign businessmen and all
Yeah.
that, you know. And every time we'd go down to visit them, he'd always be showing me. I think I was like 5 or 6. You know, he'd put me in the sort of the horse stands or the cat stands.
Yeah.
You would be having to do the drills.
Piece of trivia for you, that was Dolph Lundgren's first martial art, I believe. Dolph Lundgren, yeah.
Kyokushin, yeah. I mean, it's a tough old martial art, you know.
Yeah.
And then a couple of years later, my first club was in Wallsend. Now, if I remember right, I was 9 or 10, something like that. And it was Zanshin karate.
Right.
Now, I think that was a form of Wado.
Right.
Wado or
Wado,
Wadakai,
yeah,
something like that.
Yeah.
I only done that for a matter of months. They moved from there to Whitley Bay, you know, for a 9-year-old to get from Walker to Whitley Bays to train. I couldn't do it, you know.
Because at the time, obviously, karate was like, that was the, because we kind of, in martial art, I don't know if you agree, and please say if you don't, but like anything, there's trends, and not so much fads, but trends, let's say trends. And I think in the 70s and 80s, I'm not aging you, David. Yeah. Could have been the millennium.
Right.
You know, we had karate, had its, you know, then judo. I remember ninjutsu in the 90s was the thing, and then perhaps it was, you know, kickboxing and maybe MMA now. But so there was there a lot of karate schools and a lot of traditional karate schools?
There was a few karate schools. I think what it was, I once I'd done the best part of a year or whatever it was with the Zanshin lot.
Yeah.
A leaflet came through the door for Jintiando, which was a freestyle karate.
Right.
And the one thing, even though I really, really respect traditional martial arts, traditional karate, I hated kata.
Yeah.
I hated learning all that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
I wanted to spar. This came along, and I was like, oh, we stand like a boxer. It's good. Oh, but I'm punching like a boxer. I'm learning so much in my first lesson. That, you know, I just stuck at it.
Yeah.
From there, now I was Jintiando itself. There was a branding problem with another association, so they changed to Thai Sudo, and that was where I done all my fights.
Right.
So we started off on the mats, light contact, all that stuff, and then had about 16, 17 amateur full contact, and that was pretty much it. I'd never done any low kicks at all, anything like that, you know. But full contact was pretty much my first love of the martial arts.
Yeah, I can shout that out for real. I think full contacts, when it's done at a high level, it's beautiful to watch. I think it's very, very, very aesthetic and powerful, and you know, there's a lot going on there. So after that, after you kind of immersion into first traditional karate and then like freestyle karate?
It was like a freestyle
like
Korean
kickboxing
karate.
Almost.
I mean, it pretty much was kickboxing.
Yeah.
The Thai Sudo, it was Thai Sudo, freestyle, Korean karate, and kickboxing.
Right.
So we've done both.
Was it termed Tang Sudo?
No, Thai Sudo.
Thai Sudo,
TAI.
Right, that's interesting, because I know there's a style Tang. I'm sure it's Tang Sudo.
Tang Sudo, yeah.
And so I'm not sure what Sudo translates. Was it's hand and foot? I'm not 100%.
I think it's all pretty much the same.
Yeah. It's interesting.
If you can imagine, it's just basic kickboxing, but we wear a gi, a V-neck, gi.
Yeah.
We do the gradings and stuff.
Yeah, that's interesting. So the styles are very, very similar. So after that, then where did you go from there? Is that something that you stayed in long term? Did you move into any other martial arts? Do you have an interest in martial arts? Did you follow professional boxing, for instance, which was, you know, I'm not sure where we are, but it was televised, you know, on BBC. It's been on ITV at one point, then, you know, onto Sky, and then from that point, how did you then kind of transition onto fight promotion?
I mean, Thai Sudo was like my sort of forever martial art. You know, last year I was running a club myself, you know, at the NE6.
Yeah.
I've always just liked the combat sports, you know. When I was younger, when the UFC first came out, I was always a big reader of Martial Arts Illustrated.
Right, yes. I remember that. I think it was Combat and Martial Arts Illustrated with the two.
That's right, yeah.
One was in colour, one was black and white, but it's all good.
That's right, yeah. Well, Martial Arts Illustrated, I got the first ever one.
Yeah.
And I think I got it every month up until 2001.
Yeah.
When I took a year out and I went travelling around the world and stuff.
Right.
And then I just didn't really pick it back up. Sorry, where were we at?
No, we're talking about the just for the American viewers, we hope we have some. The Martial Arts Illustrated Combat, that translates as Black Belt magazine, which I think you guys had over in the States. Yeah, which is interesting. So from there, from your martial arts background, how did you transition onto fight promotion?
Well, it's not really something I talk about a lot. I had a lot of bad health with my kidneys.
Right.
Basically, the kidneys packed up.
Right.
I needed a new one.
Right.
And that was it. Well, obviously, once that goes, you get a bit of a shock. You're like it's the only way. Basically, it's the only way I could keep my foot in the martial arts world to get into promoting. Yeah. I mean, I was an avid K1 fan. Mm-hmm. I used to watch them all. Yeah. I used to.
Back in the days, Peter Ertz, is it? And
Peter Ertz,
and shouts him out. Yeah, my favourite, the European Prince, Stefan Leko.
Stefan Leko, yeah, without a doubt.
Mark Hunt was fighting there for the UFC fans. Mark Hunt was in the K1, and was it Jerome Labana? Jerome Labana.
Yeah, Jerome Labana.
Yeah, Labana. That's it. My French accent is terrible. Bonjour.
Yeah, actually, I think one of the British fighters or. Boratov fought him a couple of years ago.
Really?
In a very, very close fight as well.
Right, interesting.
But yeah, I mean, the promoting was the only way I could actually stay involved to the point where I was satisfied. Yeah. I mean, I still do a little bit of training. Yeah. Clearly not enough. But, I like going on the odd seminar here and there. Yeah. Self-defense and all that sort of stuff.
It's interesting that because, it's these things, we talked before about how, in regards to achieving success and how it becomes, evolves. But I think also with your direction can evolve as well. You're saying about how with health problems that took you away from the competitive side, but directed you to the promotional side. Yeah. But if that hadn't have been the case, then a lot of the fighters in the Northeast wouldn't have had the opportunity to fight on shows like what you're promoting right now. The guys we spoke of going on to fight on Glory, on Super Combat, that their path wouldn't have perhaps formed the way that had formed if yours hadn't have formed the way. So there's a beautiful symmetry to that as well when you look at it from that perspective.
It's like the chaos theory, isn't it?
Yeah.
Well, you remove one thing and everything else spirals differently. And I've no doubt, a fighter's a fighter. They're always going to want to fight. They'll find a show to showcase the skills.
Yeah, absolutely.
On, you know what I mean?
But perhaps not your shows and to that level. So it's exactly. Interesting.
I mean, I would like to think we had some sort of positive sort of input to the careers.
Yeah, yeah. I'm sure that you did. Interesting stuff. Now, little announcement. It's not so much an announcement. Well, it is an announcement actually. So, you've partnered with our very own PEEP magazine, which we're in their studio right now with the with the owner, creator, CEO, international man of mystery, Cliff Sainsbury. You guys have partnered up together. How's that working? What's involved with that?
Pretty much. I mean, I'm always, when it comes to promoting, I'm always looking for different things, different things that other people haven't done. Yeah. I started off doing co-promoting with a lad called Chris Clark from Budo FC. Right. It's an MMA promotion, and it was a very unique way that we done it. Mm-hmm. And I've done that with him a few times. I've done it with Andrew Wild from Reps Gym. He was looking after the boxing side. And this time I thought, well, look, PEEP seems to be at sort of the same sort of level at where I'm at. And we've both got this vision where we want to be. Mm-hmm. And it just seemed like after working with Cliff for a couple of years, he's doing the media side, it just seemed like a natural sort of progression. We had a couple of meetings. One went on for, I think, about 7 hours. 7 hours, I think it was.
That's a long meeting.
It was, yeah.
Not as long as Duel Zero, though.
Yeah, I was about 13 hours.
That was lightweight compared to Duel Zero.
So, yeah, we've thrashed out a rough sort of plan.
Right.
And we're going to try and execute it.
Fantastic. We look forward to seeing more coverage of upcoming Duel shows with PEEP magazine, further interviews with yourself and with the fighters you're going to be featuring on your show, and upcoming announcements as well from Duel. So not only are we the #1 combat magazine for your up-to-date combat news in the Northeast, in the UK and Europe and across the world, we'll also have exclusive footage and content and news with the #1 fight promotion, Duel. Exclusive. Once again, my words have been picked for me. That was the word I was looking for. Here's the thing. The next Duel event will be on, correct me if I'm wrong, it'll be Duel 8. So what will that be? Duel V111? Yep, if you want to go through Roman numerals. That's on December the 17th, and that will be at the NE6 suite. What can you tell us about Duel 8?
It was a surprise one, actually.
Right.
I hadn't actually planned to do anything until next year.
Yeah.
It was a couple of lads from the Manor Gym, a couple of lads from Massac Gym, a couple of other fighters. They were basically saying, look, are you putting one on? Because they like the fight around November, December time. And I thought, sod it, let's do it.
Yeah.
I put the feelers out and then just went, whoa.
Right.
This card's looking quite strong, actually.
Right.
I was actually thinking about not actually branding it as a duel.
Yeah.
Maybe something else.
Yeah.
But then I thought, no, I think it's good enough to be a duel 8,
So is duel that if we have like a duel?
Under Gary Bell, it was dual contenders, because obviously contender promotions and dual, and that was focused on sort of novices, amateurs and stuff.
Yeah.
And then I done the ring stars with Andrew Wiley, and again that was more novices and stuff.
Yeah.
That was mixing K1 with boxing that time.
Right.
So they're not what I would call full dual events.
Yes. Yeah.
They're like sort of feeder shows or
yeah,
more lower level.
Yeah. Yeah. It's almost what to kind of. Is the idea of that to bring fighters up to the dual standard, or just to give fighters of that level to fight an opportunity to fight?
Well, it's a bit of both. Yeah, we want to actually see. I mean, because Gary's a little bit like me. I mean, Gary's probably a little bit more addicted to the sport than me, actually, because I think he lives and breathes it.
Right.
We're both looking for just little things to do that can help the sport, help the region, help the fighters, and help our own brands, obviously.
Yeah, of course.
And we done it. We give it a go. It was a success to a degree, and we might do it again. We might not, but we like to play with ideas.
So just coming back to Duel 8, is there any? Can you give us any inside scoop on any of the card or anything? Anything that you're expecting on the night, so to speak, in regards to the competition?
We've got the ISKA Super Heavyweight World Champion.
Fantastic.
Lucas Probic fighting.
Shout outs to Lucas Probic.
Yeah. So again, from the Massac Gym, he's going to be fighting a tough MMA lad, Thomas Denham. These have been matched up several times.
Right.
And for one thing or another, it's felt a bit.
Yeah.
Not on my events. But yeah, we're looking forward to that. The two lads are eager to
to get
clash heads. Yeah. We've got a really good heavyweight boxing. Andrew Turner, who's actually fighting tonight, on D-Day, against a big lump of a lad, Darren Moffat, from Yorkshire. Darren's fought on one of my K1 tournaments before.
Right.
Actually, he's fought Lucas as well.
He's actually fought Lucas, yeah.
Yeah, he fought Lucas, yeah.
Has he fought? He's fought him twice.
Yes, he has actually. Yeah. He knows more about duel than me.
We'll bring Cliff on in a minute just to keep us right. Yeah. Tickets for the event. I mean, what's the capacity for the NE6 suite? And if anybody's interested, well, the people rather who are interested, of which I'm sure there'll be many, how can they get in touch for tickets? What's the best way to go about that? Right.
Yeah. There's 600 tickets on sale. You can message myself, any of the fighters. Facebook's a good way. We're on a website called iboxingtickets.co.uk or .com, I can't remember which one it is. .com, iboxingtickets.com, and we'll also be selling on skiddle.com.
Right, okay. So they're the ways that people can get in touch. And obviously, if you know any of the fighters on the card personally, approach the fighters, speak to them, and they'll have tickets ready for you. Yeah,
I mean, if you want to support your fighters, buy the tickets from the fighters, because they obviously get commission as well.
Absolutely. Support your fighters. Brilliant. I'd like to keep you on the show if you don't mind.
Sure, yeah.
We have shout out to Matt Jobs. He's watching at the moment.
Matt Jobs. Shout out to Matt Jobs. I'm just going to
Matt.
Thank you for watching. We're going to just come back here. I'd just like to for Matt Jobs is watching us. Jobs' Gym, they will be making their first professional, he'll be making his professional show debut as a promoter, and we will be covering, PEEP Magazine will be covering that show. It's on the 24th of November at Scotswood Social Club, and if you'd like tickets for that event, if you contact Matt Jobs at Jobs' Gym, I'm sure he'll be happy to help. So, we wish him the best of luck on that show. I'm sure it's going to be a tremendous event, a tremendous promotion. I'm also just going to mention again the competition that we have running at the moment, the PEEP competition. Okay, so we might need to get that steady cam on the go right now. The competition is as follows.
Can you explain that?
I can indeed. It's a new tripod, so don't worry about the slight bumpiness. We're working on that. It is the tripod. The competition: to win a PEEP magazine official t-shirt and an APN, Applied Performance Nutrition Protein Supplement, APN. Excellent company, excellent quality, excellent products, and excellent taste. I use them myself. All my fighters and clients use the APN products. You'll be winning one of those. And the question is, can you spot the visual reference to an iconic photographic image circa dated 1931? And your clue, as we didn't have a winner on which we'd announced this competition originally on PEEP Live 1, we're now on PEEP Live 2. The clue is it involves a playing card. The second question, if you missed that, it's a live stream, but can you kick back on live streams? That's how ignorant of YouTube I am. Can people kick back in the future and watch this again? I'm sure they can, can't they? We'll be throwing it up there, so you can always rewind back to what we're going to be on. 54 minutes, I'm guessing, and find the question again. Yes.
Ridley Scott's just got in touch. He says, great work, and looking forward to seeing you all at the show.
Thank you, Ridley. Thank you for getting in touch. I do apologize. I do apologize for mispronouncing your name on the first show. However, I did give you a tremendous classic film noir, I should say, Blade Runner. Myself and Cliff, and I'm sure David would like to join us to watch the new Blade Runner 2049. We're grateful that you invited us all to the premiere as well. We couldn't make that. We had PEEP live stream 1 to take care of, but we do appreciate the invite. But thank you for getting in touch and letting us know what a tremendous job we're doing. And if you would like to win, Mr. Ridley Scott, a Team Alpha official Pretty Boy Assassin t-shirt in XXL, the question is this, and Mr. Wield, you can enter this competition too, but please don't give your answer on air.
Right.
Please don't give your answer on air. First in, first served messages. As we said, we are having technical hitches tonight in our PEEP studio. We are in the centre of Newcastle upon Tyne, one of the greatest cities on earth. The question is this: which Klitschko beat which British heavyweight to win the WBO world title, and what year was it? Once again, which Klitschko beat which British heavyweight to win the WBO world title, and what was the year? So that's the questions. We're coming on to the final part of our show, which I would like to involve Mr. Wield with. Very quickly, if you'd like to subscribe to us, follow PEEP Magazine on YouTube. You can subscribe on YouTube, follow us on Twitter, on Instagram, and on Facebook. And for myself, Team Alpha 1424 on Instagram. So we're going to come to the final wrap of the show, which is the PEEP Mix. And today we're going to be looking at a couple of books. Not so much book reviews, but let's call them book recommendations. Now, the first one has been given to me. I'll be asking David his opinion on these books, or perhaps a little bit of input or comments. We may not have read these. So the idea with PEEP Mix is we're bringing other things to you than just combat sports. This week we're looking at books, as I say. We're going to beat the stereotype that fighters cannot read, or that we don't read. In fact, we do. I personally like to read everything from philosophy, psychology, quantum physics, clinical psychology, biographies, and a little bit of fiction. But we're going to keep it real tonight, keep it live with some boxing, some boxing books, for want of a better word, kind of the fight genre. So the first book is about a gentleman called Bill Richmond. The book is called Unchained. I have a brief synopsis here in front of me that's been given to me by Cliff Sainsbury. I haven't read the book myself, but I'm going to, as I say, give you this brief synopsis. So he was the world's first black sporting superstar. The book is called Unchained. Bill Richmond was born an American slave, but he was to become an English hero. They called him the Black Terror. A chance meeting with Lord Percy in America brought Mr. Richmond to Alnwick Castle, Northumberland, England. Shout out to Alnwick Castle. Shout out to Bartle Books in Alnwick, actually, which is one of my favourite places to go, which is linked to what we're talking about, because that's a bookshop, and you could perhaps even pick that book up there. By the age of 17, Bill was set up as an apprentice cabinet maker in the city of York. It was in 1796 that Bill Richmond entered underground prize fighting history, fighting at 10 stone, 12 pounds. Now, I have read an in-depth book on bare knuckle boxing, but it was quite a while ago, so my dates and my weight divisions have left me. Back in the 1700s, I believe there was just 3 weight divisions: lightweight, middleweight, and heavyweight. I believe there was just 3 weight divisions back then. It may have been up to 6. I don't have the dates in front of me when that was. If that was the case, I imagine the cutoff, perhaps this would have been a middleweight fight or middleweight events he'd have been competing in. By 1805, Richmond was taking on the best prize fighters in the country, and dreamed to fight and set his sights on taking on England's #1 pugilist, Mr. Tom Cribb. It's interesting. I mean, bare knuckle boxing back then was pretty much exactly what it said on the tin. It literally was bare knuckle boxing. This was before the Queensberry rules, before we had a set space to fight in. Obviously, before the gloves came into fashion, so to speak. I think the first boxer to fight with a pair of gloves was it not Jim Jeffries? It was the same fight. He used to go into pubs.
Broughton?
It wasn't. It was an American fighter, and he used to go into pubs and say, "I can lick any son of a beep in the house."
Right.
And he actually transitioned from being the last heavyweight bare knuckle fighter to being the first gloved heavyweight fighter. But he was actually beaten, I believe, on the first fight involving gloves by James J. Jeffries. That's who beat him. That's who beat him.
John L. Sullivan?
John L. Sullivan. That's a high five right there. It was John L. Sullivan, an American fighter, American heavyweight, and I believe it was the first gloved event in the Queensberry rules, and he fought James J. Jeffries, and he actually lost the title to James J. Jeffries. So he actually stepped in as a heavyweight champion, bare knuckle, and left as the former champion. And I suppose, in a sense, left because he was the last, so he remains the bare knuckle champion, the last true champion, and he remains that for the rest of his life because we've never beaten bare knuckle. He's beaten in the boxing event, so it's quite interesting. We'll do a little bit more on the history of bare knuckle because, like I said, I've got some knowledge in that area. I'll just read back up on it. So in those days when our friend Bill Richmond was fighting, it was literally bare knuckle. From what I understand, there would be a cordoned off area. Could be outdoors, could be in a warehouse, could be on a field. I think Tom Cribb fought, was it Tom Heaney, who was he the American champion? I think they actually fought on a barge because they'd arranged to fight in a field somewhere. The police got word of it, so they actually took the event onto a steamboat somewhere and fought on a steamboat.
Territory or something.
Well, yeah. So it was on the water. Apparently, there's no law on the water, so they had no jurisdiction on the water.
Maritime law, I think, is something a little bit similar to legal or something like that.
Yes, that's it. So they moved it onto the barge. So the maritime law is very different. So they'd moved the boat onto there, and I can't remember the result. So it's interesting. So these guys are fighting completely bare knuckle. There's a cordoned off area, but it's not. I wouldn't have imagined it's a measured area. It's just giving them room to move and to fight. We're going to mention some of this right now. There was no rounds. And the winner was decided, from what I understand, from what I remember from the studies that I've done, the winner was either if a fighter could no longer physically continue, or if he verbally tapped, so to speak. He didn't tap, he just said, "I can't go on." So, and the way they would find out whether or not he could actually continue was the scratch line, Cliff. Up to scratch. So what they would actually do is scratch. This is where the saying "he's not up to scratch" or "are you up to scratch" came from. What they would do is they'd draw a line in the sand or on the ground or wherever it was, what they call a scratch line, which came from the idea of literally just scratching it into the ground. And both fighters would have to meet at that scratch line. So say one fighter had been knocked down, the fight would be stopped. The guy was on the ground. You couldn't get in ground and pound around, bar him or anything like that. So what they do is stand both fighters up and then walk them to this line. And if one fighter couldn't make it to the line unassisted, he couldn't be carried to the line from what I understand, then he'd lost the fight. So that's where the scratch line came from.
So is that similar to toeing the line?
Toeing the line, I think that goes back to, I think that goes back to Roman times when you're talking about, is he worth his salt? Because you used to be paid in salt instead of in currency, because salt was a really valuable. But I don't know. Towing the line, we're going to find that out. That sounds like a sailor term. Do you see? The thing is, when you tune into PEEP Live, we're not just talking about combat sports. You're learning about history, you're learning about psychology, you're learning about all sorts of things. Now, going back to the bare knuckle boxing, you know, even in those days, can you believe this? I remember this. Fighters were paid £1,000 purses back in the 17 and 1800s.
That's crazy.
Yeah, and I also remember, I don't have my data points in front of me, so correct me if I'm wrong, but I read about a belt being made up, and it had like, it was diamonds on it, but it had some kind of, you know, it had gold, and the belt itself was worth, you know, thousands of pounds. And if you think about it in a way, like fighters back in the 17, 1800s were being paid, and this we're talking about, like, you know, the champions were being paid more than some professional boxers nowadays at lower levels, you know. So it's interesting
if you take into account the currency sort of
currency, of course. Yes, of course, if you take into account inflation and what that currency would be worth back then. But then, of course, you could always argue, well, hypothetically, if the world champion was paid, I don't know, £2,000 or £5,000 back in the 1800s, what that would be worth now in nowadays money, you know, whether it be millions, I don't have all the financials in front of me. But then you look at Floyd Mayweather being paid, you know, $500,000. So maybe it actually equates quite well there.
$500 million.
$500 million.
Was it? I don't know where it was.
No, I think he cleared $500 million for the fight against Conor McGregor. Actually,
crazy, isn't it?
Yeah.
But
Toe the line. We have the. I'm gonna go. We've got Cliff going sailor term. I'm gonna go Roman times.
And I thought
we're going boxing.
Yeah. It's a nautical expression.
It is sailor.
And then it's with sailors towing the line as a form of get your toes on the line for punishment.
Right.
Right. Could be
yeah.
right, could be wrong.
No, that's interesting. So towing the line as if to say, like, you have to have your toes on the line because they get whipped or something with the cat o' nine tails. That's interesting. There's
another expression, toe the line, to get your toes on the plank.
Right, toe on the plank. Right, okay. Toe the line. That's interesting.
So can we agree to know it?
No, Cliff's won that one. It wasn't an official competition, so we don't have a prize for that. But we'll come up with something. So, I want to give just a shout out again to our own world bare knuckle boxing champion, Mickey Terrell, the Man Gym, and also shout out to Baz Jones, my good friend Baz Jones, who's fighting tonight at the Federation Brewery. It's about 9:05, so I don't know if he would have been on yet. It's probably going to be later on, so I'll make sure we get a message out. I'll send him a personal message there just to wish him the best of luck, and I look forward to seeing him in the next few weeks. Back at the is it Fitness First that I train with him for some more intense, incredible boxing coaching there. And I should mention again, if you want to see some, if you'd like to see some of that footage, you can follow Baz Jones on BazJones99 on Instagram, and also follow myself on Team Alpha 1424. So we're going to talk we are talking on books. So I got so involved there in the history that I completely forgot that was actually a book rather than the discussion. So Mr. Bill Richmond, the world's first black sporting superstar. The book is called Unchained. You can, of course, purchase at Amazon. I've got no qualms with purchasing books on Amazon. We don't have a sticker price. I said $9.99. It's likely to be a little bit more than that. We'll say perhaps $14.99. You can go on Amazon and check that out yourselves and have a look. But I'd also recommend to visit your local bookseller. You know, support your local bookseller. Waterstones is a chain, but if you've got a local independent bookseller, I'd certainly recommend going. Have you ever been to Barter Books, David? In Annick?
Barter Books in
Annick.
I don't think I have.
I'm going to take you there, my friend.
Right.
It's fireplaces, it's high roofs, it's culture, it's history, it's coffee, and it's chocolate chip or ginger cookies. So I'm going to buy you a coffee
ginger
and a cookie.
Will do, mate.
Can I, and Cliff as well, but can I just... go on, sorry.
You can buy the Richmond Unchained paperback.
Thank you.
Amazon, £14.48.
£14.48 on the paperback Unchained on Amazon. Amazon.
Kindle version £7.8.
The Kindle version is £7.8. If you have a Kindle, if you don't, it'll be £137.8 because you've got to buy the Kindle as well. But I think Kindles are a bit cheaper than that.
John Ahmed, he's got a book out at the moment.
Yep.
Called Prince and the Puppy.
John Armand, there's a book out called John Ahmed, a book called The Prince and the Puppy, which will also be available on Amazon, I would imagine. If you would like to have a look at that. I don't have a synopsis for that, but there's another book thrown at you. If you can get to Barter Books, get yourself there right now. Well, not right now because it'll be closed, but perhaps tomorrow. Go and have a look around. There's some tremendous, there's everything there. There's fiction, there's non-fiction. It's an old converted railway station converted into this old second-hand bookstore. Fantastic just to go in there, get a coffee. Ginger or chocolate chips, sir?
Ginger.
Ginger?
Yeah.
Controversial. Mr. Sainsbury, ginger or chocolate chip? Neither.
Nah.
Not a cookie man.
He's a crumpet man.
He's a crumpet man. The second book, then, we're now on to. We're going to continue this feed for a little while longer. We're on PEEP Mix. We're talking books. We've just talked a little bit on Unchained, which is Bill Richmond. Who wrote the book actually, Unchained? It's about Bill Richmond, but we'd like to get the author's name as well in case you want to search for that. We will have that information shortly. So if you'd like to purchase that book on Amazon or at your local bookseller, the world's first black sporting superstar. The book is titled Unchained, featuring Mr. Bill Richmond, and we'll have the author's name for you imminently. The second book we're going to very briefly touch on is my personal favourite book on combat sports, on boxing, professional boxing specifically. Luke G. Williams is the author of Unchained, and we recommend that one wholeheartedly. So, Dark Trade, my personal favourite professional boxing book, combat boxing book. I've read this book numerous times. It's a personal favourite of mine. I come back to it on a yearly basis and reread it. It's set in the 1990s. I'm just going to show you it right now. Dark Trade, the author is Donald McRae. This is the paperback edition. Not an official competition, but if you can name the fighter's canvas, it's a painted canvas, a picture of a painted canvas there of a fight. If you name him, I'll be interested to see if you can get that. Dark Trade by Mr. Donald McRae, a tremendous author. He's actually wrote more than one book on boxing, but this is one we're going to discuss tonight. So, Dark Trade, fantastic book. Have you read this book before, David?
I haven't, no.
No. It did win William Hill Sports Book of the Year award, but not this year because I believe it's 1996, I should say. So it's nearly 21 years old. This was written way back in the day. So it's featured. Obviously, it features fighters from the 90s era. Perhaps younger fans of the sport have not heard of some of these fighters. I'm going to read some of the content titles and just see if Mr. Wield can get the name of the fighter. It's kind of it's a suggestion or a link, so to speak, or kind of a vague description of that fighter. And I'll be interested to see if David can get these. There's 12 of them, so I'm going to read a couple and see if he can get a couple. So, chapter 1 is called The Baddest Man. Who do you think that would be about?
The Baddest Man.
Yeah. Professional boxers.
Yeah, it could be Iron
Mike Tyson, absolutely correct. You're in the deep end now, aren't you? I'm going to read a few. I'll not read them all. The Force.
The Force. Was that Gerald McClellan?
Close. He does have a connection with Gerald McClellan. I'll give you a clue. It's one of our British middleweights legends.
Ben.
Close.
Eubank.
Close. You fought them. Mr.
Collins. Michael Watson.
Michael Watson. The Force. Yeah. You got to get this one. This is boxing, baby.
Oh.
Promoter.
Don
King. Absolutely. One of my all-time favourite fighters. Oscar's Night.
No.
That's a fighter. Oscar
De La
Hoya. The King and the Prince. Prince
Nassim?
Yeah. I'm throwing too many clues. Too many clues, not clues. I'm just trying to think if any more. We'll do one more. That's a hard one. The Soldier Boy. Yeah, and that's kind of a ghetto name for a chap who's kind of keeps going, doesn't give up, and I'll give you a clue. He was an American fighter, lovely and orthodox style. Fought Roy Jones and moved up started at middleweight and moved all the way up to heavyweight and was a
James Toney.
James Toney, the man James Toney. So Dark Trade. The reason I love this book is that it's got 12 chapters, and each chapter features a different fighter, information about a different fighter. But Donald's actually traveled and spent time with these fighters, so it's almost from like a in the room perspective, where it's kind of it's obviously it's not a fiction book, it's a factual book. So it's almost like you're in the room with the fighters. You kind of with him as he travels the road and he meets these guys and he's talking to them. He's trying to track them down, and it's almost like cliche. You can smell the blood or whatever, and see the sweat fly, but it goes into the psychology of the fighters as well. I mean, Mr. McRae is a tremendous author and writer, and basically he's talking about his love for the sport and how he became addicted and kind of what he calls it lost in boxing, and his path from I think South Africa, and he watched the fighters and some of the British fighters, and then he came over, moved over to Britain, I believe, and then kind of followed them and started to cover them, and it's a kind of book, as I say, you could literally pick the book up, turn to any page, and just become engrossed in the book, and just start from there. I mean, it does feature a lot about James Toney, because he built quite a close relationship with James Toney. But as we've said, some of the fighters, he covers his Mike Tyson, Michael Watson, Oscar De La Hoya, Prince Nassim Hamed, James Toney, others as well, and some of the promoters.
That era though was just absolutely amazing for boxing. I mean, from the middleweights, super middleweights, and up to the heavyweights, they were brilliant.
It was a special time, wasn't it? I mean, we had some tremendous, as you said. Well, you've said exactly. I'm just repeating what you've said. That throughout all the weight divisions. It was just a deep talent pool.
Well, I used to obviously. Ben and Eubank, I used to follow them. But, Michael Nunn, James Toney, obviously Roy Jones Jr. Shout out. It was a phenomenal sort of division, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it's just a shame that some of them didn't actually fight each other. I would have loved to have seen Michael Nunn or James Toney fight Nigel Benn.
Yeah, definitely. Absolutely.
Or Eubank, actually, because Eubank had that weird sort of tactical style about him. With Ben, you knew what you were getting.
Yeah, definitely, 100%. I mean, I got into boxing probably in the early 2000s, so obviously, probably all of these fighters were still active then. I mean, in round about the the mid 90s, mid to late 90s, Oscar De La Hoya was one of my favorite fighters of all time. Was just launching his professional career, and then I started to follow them as because he won a world title quite early, but then he was. I think I got into him when he was fighting like Trinidad. So it was like mid career. We'll call that mid career. And he was fighting Fernando Vargas. And one of my old Ricardo Mayorga, which was later in his career, but that was one of my favorite De La Hoya fights. He's tremendous fighter, and so I got in just after the whole Ben Eubank era. But I don't know if you agree, but I think for because you can go on YouTube. Obviously, we love YouTube. We're on YouTube right now. I'm a big fan of books. I love books. I love reading. I love to read about loads of different topics and subjects. There's always going to be a place for books as far as I'm concerned. There's things that books give you that, videos that can't. So I'd recommend everybody to get a good book. But I'd certainly recommend this book for guys who are teenagers who are just getting into boxing and want to learn more about the old-time champs, rather than just watching, and there's nothing wrong, and I do it, watching highlight reels, Let me give you an example. We're talking about Roy Jones, throwing a Roy Jones highlight reel. Now, I watch Floyd Mayweather, one of my all-time favourite fighters, one of the greatest fighters in history as far as I'm concerned. Now, I ran a Floyd Mayweather highlight reel. I'm watching it thinking, how in God's name can anybody do that, And then, in my opinion, you run a Roy Jones highlight reel in his prime, and you think, this guy is another level.
Something special, definitely.
But I want to ask you about Roy Jones, but also, don't you think it's a value for young fans of the sport, or they're getting into the sport, to pick up a book like this and find out about these guys?
Yeah, without a doubt. I mean, you've got to research the legends, so to speak. If you've got any ambition where you want to actually get to the top, you need to actually research the people that were at the top. I mean, them fighters that were mentioned. To me, I don't think you're ever going to. They're never going to be repeated. Do you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. You're never going to get a highlight reel like Roy Jones Jr.
Never
again. You know what I mean? But saying that, Michael Nunn's was quite good as well.
I'm going to check him out. I know
he's really good. Yeah,
I'm going to check him out. But what do you think of not just watching them fight, but
and Bernard Hopkins as well.
Bernard Hopkins, the executioner. Yeah, definitely. He's featured. I'm sure he's featured in here somewhere as well.
I might actually take a read of that. It's been that long. since I've read a boxing book.
Right.
The Gerald McClellan.
Yes,
story,
he's in here. Yeah.
I read his sort of biography. That was a bit sad.
Of course.
You know.
Of course. Yeah. God bless.
But,
you know.
Yeah, but that was the last book I read, so I might actually have a look at that.
What do you think, though, of the idea that to learn about the fighter and to really become engrossed with the fighter and connect with the fighter, that not just watching him fight, but learning about the fighter himself through a book such as this?
The good thing with books, I mean, when you're watching, telly's the easy way, isn't it? You know what I mean?
Yeah. Watching
videos is easy. When you're reading a book, you're actually opening up your mind's eye.
Yeah.
And it's almost as if you're there and connecting with them in a weird sort of...
Absolutely.
I don't know, spiritual way or something like that, you know what I mean?
Absolutely, yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I do read a lot of books, just not boxing ones.
Yeah, it's. I think it gives you that emotional connection, and that's important then when you see them fight, you know, and perhaps some of that carries through to their style. I'm going to just read a short paragraph of the book in chapter 1. If you'd like us to start a PEEP bedtime story service, that's something we could look at. But so you might want to tuck in, light the fire, you know.
With this voice, I'll not be reading them.
Break out the... No, that'd be a good voice. You've got that huskiness going on there. So I'm sure if any ladies would like Mr. Wheel to read bedtime stories to them, please message us and we'll see what we can arrange. I'm sure not. So I'm just going to read actually 2 short paragraphs to you, and we'll see how we get on. Darkness settled over the ring as they began to fight. The 2 boxers came together in the old routine, throwing punches at each other, slipping in and out of pain. In the broiling gym, they moved slap bang into an unchanging pattern, where the famous fighter dished out damage to the older journeyman. I had travelled 5,000 miles to see that first boxer, the baddest man, this American bogeyman, yet I could not lift my eyes from the other fighter, a bravely affecting if shambling brawler who called himself the boogeyman. I could have reached through the sagging ropes and touched him. I was that close to the boogeyman. But there is something discouraging in the sound of a big man being hurt. The little groans and snuffles he let slip made it seem as if Jesse Ferguson could feel the coming of a bad head cold. I took a step back as if the virus might be catching. The wheezing sob as the back of his throat grew louder. Mike Tyson was all over him, piling in heavy jabs to the face, which left me shivery with sympathy for Ferguson, the man whose nose Tyson had wanted to drive into his brain. It's pretty strong stuff.
Typical Tyson.
Yeah. I'd like to give you this book as a gift, Mr. Wheel. This is yours to take home. Absolutely, sir. I hope you're getting much enjoyment from that as I have.
Thank you very much.
You're very welcome, sir. Yes. You're very, very welcome. So, we come to an end of another tremendous, dynamic, life-changing show. PEEP Live, episode 2. We do hope you've enjoyed what we've had for you tonight. The current news, the competition, our very special guest. I'd just like to say a big thank you to Mr. David Wheel for taking the time out of his busy schedule to visit us here in the studio in the centre of Newcastle upon Tyne.
It's been a pleasure.
Yeah, do you have any final words just before we...
I mean, just going back to the K1 thing, I mean, I know we've spoken a lot about DUEL, but let's not forget, in the Northeast, it's a very, very exciting time at the minute.
Yeah.
Tony Cunningham's doing a brilliant job with what he's doing with the home show. I believe he's working with Craig on an On Fusion show later on next year. Gary Bell, again, you know, totally passionate. He's bringing World Fighting League, which is owned by Melvin Manhoff.
Right, fantastic.
He's bringing that over. And then obviously myself, I've got links with Super Combat and a couple of other things. Amir Subasic from down south, doing brilliant things, and he's going to be bringing his show up to the Northeast as well, the Super Fight Series.
Fantastic.
So if anyone is looking forward to elevating their career, getting on big shows, you know, you've got 3-4 names that can help them straight away, you know.
Fantastic. That's brilliant. And of course yourself, just taking things to the next level.
Plodding along.
Keeping it real. Dual Fight Challenge, not to be missed. Do not miss their show. Can you give me the date? Is it December the 17th?
Yeah, it's a Sunday afternoon, December the 17th. And there's about 5 gyms that are they're actually making it their Christmas night out.
Fantastic.
So it's going to be a great atmosphere.
Good.
I'm just
Drinks on you?
Maybe not.
Fantastic.
It's a free bar, yeah.
Free bar.
Not my bar, like, but
it's all good. Listen, I want to thank you, the viewers, most of all. Without you, the show is just us having fun in a studio. So thank you very much for tuning in. Stay put. In fact, before we just switch off air there, Jewel. I've got Jewel on the brain. PEEP Live 3 will be coming with you very shortly in the upcoming weeks. We're hoping to have on some special guests over the upcoming shows, not necessarily the next one, but I will be back as your host. We're hoping to have on future shows a Mr. Chris Reed, a close friend of mine, a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu blue belt, a former model and a former professional ice hockey player, great guy with a lot of knowledge and a very sincere gentleman. Looking forward to having him on. Stevie Ibbotson, Hellraiser, a high-level professional K1 fighter, a former European champion, and the current dual super fight champion at light heavyweight. Is that correct?
That's correct, yeah.
Yeah, I got that right, you see. So I'm looking forward to having Stevie on, talking a little bit about his upcoming fight career, past fights, where he's looking to go in the future, and maybe a little bit of fun facts about the time we've spent together. Having Mr. Chris Reed talking about his jiu-jitsu career. He's also a blue belt in power kickboxing, my style of kickboxing. Talking a little bit about that, a little bit about his ice hockey career, and perhaps a few little anecdotes about the time we've spent together. And I'd also like to have Barry from the Long Sands Surf Coaching. I'd like to have him on talking a little bit about surfing, how he got into the sport, about his coaching methods, perhaps some of the potential benefits for fighters getting involved in surfing, supporting local businesses there in the Northeast. One of the most beautiful places in the world, and I do mean that sincerely. We're very blessed with all the tremendous places we have around us. In Northumberland and Northumberland coastline. We'll have to bring you on again to talk a little bit about that. I don't know if you get out and do a bit of walking, but
cardio's not my strong point.
Well, certainly fight promotion is, and I'm hoping to have on Heather the Heat Hardy, mixed martial arts and boxing professional, undefeated. We'd love to have her on. That'll be a win-win as far as I'm concerned. So if you're watching, Miss Hardy, please get in touch with us at PEEP. We'd love to have you on, and that would be great. Thank you very much for tuning in. Have a great night. Keep it combat.
I'll just say hello to my son and daughter, Joseph and Caitlin, and the wife, Catherine, who's been on my case all day.
Absolutely. That's a wrap. Thank you.